I know that in the industrial world of Star Citizen, salvage is getting all the love recently, but humble mining still deserves some of our time. Don't get me wrong, I've really been enjoying the salvage loop, but good old quant mining still scratches a certain itch. As promised, I'm going to be updating my main Q mining guide patch by patch as things change, but I thought you might enjoy a shorter vid just focusing on the changes set for 3.18. So if that sounds good to you, grab a cup of tea while I roll the intro, and then let's get into it. Hello and welcome back or welcome to the channel. I'm Loudguns, and like I said, we're going to take a look at changes to ship mining in 3.18. Good news, there isn't much difference, so it's not like I'm going to have to sink another 100 hours or so into the guide, but there is a significant change to scanning which will affect both Prospector and Mole pilots. A big thanks to the active crew over on the Frontier Community Discord. Having a group of people happy to share their latest tips and tricks really helps me keep on top of big and small changes. So if you feel like popping in, the link to that is just down in the video description below. So let's start off in the Aran Halo, where these changes are the easiest to see. And if you need a reminder on how to get to the Halo, a huge asteroid belt circling the Stanton star between ArcCorp and Microtech, be sure to check out the detailed maps on Cornerstone, which I'll just link in the video description. Previously in 3.18, the Prospector had a big edge when it came to asteroid mining, since you could see the asteroid type using your laser. But this has been moved. Key here, moved, not removed. Just like before, you're going to want to start by letting out a ping. Default on the keyboard is tab, and as per usual, I'm going to refer to default keyboard and mouse controls. So this gives you returns for all the potential resources in a bubble around your ship. Now where before you would narrow your ping angle with the full stop key, you're going to want to open scanning mode with V. Narrow the ping angle this time by scrolling up on your mouse wheel. Aim at one of those return boxes. Let's take a pause here to look at the first important bit of info on the HUD, because with 3.18 our favourite asteroid fields have just got a lot more cluttered. Not only do we have asteroids out here, but also bits of salvage, so it's going to save us time if we don't bother inspecting the salvageables, unless we're part of a bigger crew of course with vultures and reclaimers handy. Take a look over on the left hand side of the screen at the RS signature, which is currently showing 1700. And this means we're going to find one asteroid in this bubble. Each asteroid or mineable rock, regardless of type or mass, has an RS signature of 1700. And that means that anytime you see an RS that is a multiple of 1700, it's going to be asteroids or mineable rocks. Just in case you're not keen to do some mental maths, I'd have made this chart so you can keep it open on a second monitor or print it off. You can find it in the shared drive link in the vid description. A salvage piece like the ones you find out in the Halo has an RS signature of 2000, so unless you stumble across a cluster of 17 salvage pieces, you're not going to get confused. And to be fair, if you find 17 salvage pieces in a cluster, you should probably call up a buddy with a salvage ship. We're going to come on to why it's relevant later, but a single gem node is 620, and that's why it's in the table too. So since we know it's an asteroid, let's ping again, and this time with the narrower, more powerful angle. This gives a single box marking the position of the asteroid. So move your crosshairs over that and hold down left mouse button to perform a long scan. You won't get a ton of detail at this range, but you will get a very important part. The asteroid type, in this case M, is revealed over on the left hand side. So we're in the market for Quantanium, and that comes in Q-type asteroids. So we can move on to the next return without stopping to look at this one further. RS sig is 3400, so 2 asteroids. Ping again to get the small boxes. Scan, P-type, so it's time to move on because again we're looking for those Qs. You can widen the angle back out by rolling down on your mouse wheel and perform another 360 degree ping to get the returns up again. I avoided that one at 12.6 kilometers because the prospector's scanners are only good out to about 12k. So let's go for ones at a closer distance than that. So this one's got an RS signature of 8000. I'm just going to scan it to show you, but that will be 4 salvage pieces. If I was out here to min-max my mining, I just wouldn't bother with the long scan on that one since I know it wouldn't be worth it. Now the halo's pretty massive, so to conserve fuel, rather than flying around pinging aimlessly, you can always just analyse the returns where you drop out of QT, then spool your drive up again and take a short hop onto a fresh spot. We've only travelled a few hundred kilometres, so we're still well within the belt, but we're surrounded by a bunch of fresh new rocks to check out. Now unfortunately an old bug has yet to be fully resolved, those pesky unscannable asteroids are still here. The good news though is that by scanning like this you'll find out immediately. I can't scan that rock, it's not fair of course, but I'm just not going to waste any more time on it. And here we found what we're looking for, asteroid Q-type. So we know with this type that it can only be a Quantanium rock, and we know that clusters are always going to be made up of the same type of asteroid. So given we had an RS signature of 3400, we know that this is going to be 2 Quantanium rocks. Since it's scanned at this range, it will scan when we get closer to it, so it's worth driving over there to check out in more detail the contents and see if it's worth mining. You can keep letting out pings to appraise yourself of the distance because these things can sneak up on you in dead space. When you're a bit closer, hold down left mouse button to perform a detailed scan. And if it doesn't work immediately, just come out of scanning mode by pressing V, and I'm not kidding here, shoot the rock with your lasers. This can sometimes just cause the rock to sync back up, or maybe it just scares it into submission. When you go back to scanning mode though, it should be behaving itself. So while this is a Q rock, it unfortunately only contains 2% or so Quantanium, and its buddy here isn't much better. These just aren't really worth stopping to mine. While you can use a mining calculator to find out the exact figures, I love asteroid mining because all asteroids are about 5k mass. And a quick rule of thumb when it comes to 5k mass rocks is that 1% equals 1 SCU. Our prospector's got 32 SCU, so ideally I'm looking for something 30% or higher so that I can fill it up. But if you keep at this scanning technique, it will help you just limit the time that you're travelling between rocks and focus your efforts on inspecting the ones that you do want, meaning that before long all you're going to be looking at is a juicy cash rock. But what has got me really happy about this change is that asteroid mining in my favoured Argo mole is back. In the 317 build, because you had to be looking through a laser to see the asteroid type, the mole wasn't great out in the belt unless you had support from a crewmate. But now you can scan for Q rocks from the pilot's seat in exactly the same way as you do in the prospector. And the mole's increased capacity versus the prospector with its 96 SCU of cargo can be particularly useful when, like here, we found around 50 SCU spread across 2 rocks. Clusters in the halo can get extremely large, the biggest I've seen are around 15 to 16 asteroids, so with the right find you could be heading back to the station with a full mole. And with 318 bringing with it more threat from piracy, being out in the Aaron halo when you're jumping in and out of your seat if you're being solo in a mole is a lot safer than, say, down on a planet. Speaking of surface mining though, we can also use the RS-SIGs to work out even quicker which returns to investigate. Lyria retains the Quant Mining crown, as here any cluster of 2 or more rocks is guaranteed to be Quantanium. So since we know rocks have an RS signature of 1700, we know that any multiple of that number above 3400 is going to be Quantanium. In this instance we don't really need to stop and ping a second time. We can just hover over the return and check the RS number. If it's 1700 or not a multiple of 1700, we can ignore it and move on to the next return. Here we've got a return of 3400, so we know it's 2 rocks, and we know it's Quant because it's 2 rocks, so it's worth going in for a closer look. And on closer inspection, these 2 rocks aren't worth stopping for, but the key here is again that we're limiting our efforts and only spending more time to inspect Quant clusters rather than looking at each and every rock we see. You can always dial your ping back to 180 or 90 degrees to focus just on stuff ahead of you after you've finished inspecting the first thing you've looked at, just in case you want to cruise around Lyria and limit the amount you need to rotate your mole around. Before long, we've got another couple of 3400 readings, and here we can use narrower pings just to help pinpoint the more exact locations of these rocks we're navigating towards. I really like that they've changed the pinging angle onto your scanning mode, but I do kinda wish that you could lock the scanning mode to your crosshairs. It's a little bit of a weird sensation having it almost on a gimbal when you try to fly the ship. Just like in space, you might want to give those rocks a little bit of a love tap with your lasers to wake them up and get them to scan. And these ones might be worth it, but I did spot another double over this way, so that could be worth a look first. And this one's only 4.5k mass, but it is 48.5% Quantanium, so that's definitely worth taking. And on a normal day, the 10% rock next to it might even merit considering. But you know, it's PTU, so I might just go to bed instead. So I hope you enjoyed this vid and that it helps you get ready for cracking rocks and raking in space cache in 3.18. Go give it a go in PTU or just wait for live, you know, soon. If these guides do help you, consider helping me out by dropping a like, hitting subscribe and sharing it with a friend or orgmate. That sort of thing goes a really long way. And I hear ISC tonight is all about mining in 3.19, so I'm sure we're going to have plenty to get our teeth into going forward. If you'd really like to help fund my burrito habit, I do have a Patreon, but honestly, just by being here watching all the way to the end, you're already doing more than enough. And with all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.